So I've been using the Galaxy S26 Ultra for a few days now, and honestly I kept going back and forth on which phone I should compare it with. Should I do it with the S25 Ultra? Maybe the Fold 7? But in the end, the choice was pretty obvious. I went with the S24 Ultra. Why? Two reasons. First, the S24 Ultra is easily one of my favorite Ultra phones Samsung has ever made. And second, upgrading every single year just doesn't make much sense anymore. Most people hold on to their phones for 2 or even 3 years now. So if you're currently using the S24 Ultra, you're exactly the kind of user who might realistically consider moving to the S26 Ultra. So the real question becomes pretty simple. Are these improvements big enough to justify that upgrade? Well, let's go through 6 reasons you might want to upgrade and 2 reasons you probably shouldn't. What's up guys, Sal here. Now before we jump into the comparison, if you are thinking about upgrading, just know that the pre-order window is basically your best chance to get the S26 Ultra at a good price. Samsung usually throws in their most aggressive trade-in deals during this period, and right now they're offering $800 for the S24 Ultra. So if you trade it in, the S26 Ultra ends up costing around $500. On top of that, there is also an extra $30 credit included. So if you're already planning to upgrade, this is probably the best time to do it. I'll leave the offer link down in the description. Alright, starting with the design. Personally, the S24 Ultra is still my favorite Ultra design Samsung has ever made. That classic boxy Galaxy Note style just looks incredible. To be fair, the S26 Ultra definitely looks better than the S25 Ultra did, but between these two, I still think the S24 Ultra wins in terms of overall design. But design is subjective. What matters more here is comfort. The S26 Ultra is almost 20 grams lighter and about 0.7mm thinner, and you genuinely feel that difference in hand. It's noticeably easier to hold the phone for longer time. I do miss the slightly rounded sides of the S24 Ultra, but Samsung has done a good job keeping the S26 Ultra's personality while also making it more ergonomic. Plus, the rounded corners and the subtle chamfered edges make it a more comfortable phone to use overall. Next, the display. Realistically speaking, in everyday use, you're not gonna notice a huge difference between these two displays. Even though the S26 Ultra uses the newer M14 panel, both displays are excellent. Brightness is essentially the same, and overall display quality is still top tier on both phones. Where the S26 Ultra does have a technical advantage is color reproduction. It uses a technique called FRC, which allows the display to produce more color variations. In practice though, the difference mainly shows up in HDR videos where you might notice slightly less banding. Outside of that, both displays look fantastic. However, the S26 Ultra does introduce something new that actually matters: the privacy display. This is a hardware level feature, which means the S24 Ultra won't get it through a software update. With a single press, you can limit the viewing angle so people around you can't see what's on your screen. And it's surprisingly useful. I personally don't keep it enabled all the time because it does affect viewing angles, but when entering passwords, using banking apps, or checking notifications in public, it's actually very handy. That said, Samsung did make a couple of trade-offs. The anti-reflective coating on the S26 Ultra is slightly worse compared to the S24 Ultra. It's still way better than most phones, but you'll notice that it reflects a bit more light. And then there's the frame. Samsung switched from titanium back to aluminum. If you use a case, this probably won't matter much, but if you like using your phone without one, aluminum is definitely more prone to scratches and dents. Speaking of downgrades, the S Pen is another one. The S26 Ultra's S Pen no longer supports Bluetooth. That means things like remote camera shutter and air actions are gone. So if those features matter to you, this alone could be a reason not to upgrade. Now let's talk about performance. This is where the S26 Ultra really pulls ahead. The new chip delivers roughly a 65% improvement in both single-core and multi-core performance. Graphics performance is also around 50% better, which is a massive jump. On top of that, you get faster RAM and a significantly more powerful AI processor. Now, to be fair, benchmark improvements don't always translate directly to everyday usage. For things like messaging, scrolling, or social media, both phones still feel extremely fast. But when you start doing heavier tasks like gaming, video editing, AI processing, or complex multitasking, the S26 Ultra clearly has the advantage. Plus, thermals are much better on the S26 Ultra, which means it can sustain that performance longer. So performance is definitely one of the biggest reasons to upgrade. What about cameras? Look, on paper, the difference don't look massive. The biggest hardware change is the 50 megapixel ultra-wide camera compared to the 12 megapixel on the S24 Ultra. But if you look deeper, there are some real upgrades here. The main camera and the 5x telephoto now have wider apertures, there's a better image signal processor, and Samsung has improved the overall processing algorithm. All of that adds up to noticeably better photos and videos. The S26 Ultra also introduces a pretty wow feature called Horizon Lock. You can rotate the phone however you want and the subject stays perfectly level in the frame. It sounds ridiculous, but it actually works really well. There are also some other upgrades like center stage now works in full 4K instead of 1080p. There is a dedicated 24 megapixel shooting mode that won't be coming to the S24 Ultra, and there's also the new APV codec, which is essentially Samsung's equivalent of Apple's ProRes. It lets you shoot in log and apply custom LUTs, which is a huge deal if you're serious about video. So overall, the camera system is clearly improved, and that's another legitimate reason to upgrade. Speaker quality has also been improved. You can clearly notice better highs, mids, and bass. Next is charging speed. The S26 Ultra charges about 15 watts faster wired and 10 watts faster wirelessly. In real world terms, the S24 Ultra takes about an hour and 10 minutes to go from 0 to 100. The S26 Ultra can do it in around 47 minutes, which is a notable improvement. Not huge, but still notable. What about battery life? Well, even though both phones have the same 5000 mAh battery, the S26 Ultra delivers noticeably better battery life thanks to improved optimization and more efficient components. If the S24 Ultra gives you around 8 hours of screen on time, you can expect the S26 Ultra to push past 10 hours pretty easily. Finally, the AI features. The S26 Ultra does introduce some impressive tools, like there's an AI photo editor where you can type a prompt and the phone edits the image in a surprisingly convincing way. Features like now nudge surface contextual information inside apps. There's also Google's call screening and a new automation system that can handle certain tasks for you automatically. But here's the thing, most of these AI features are expected to come to the S24 Ultra as well with One UI 8.5 update. They may run slightly faster on the S26 Ultra because of the new chip, but AI alone shouldn't be the main reason you upgrade. So when you look at everything overall, the S26 Ultra does bring noticeable improvements in performance, camera, display features, charging speed, battery life, and overall comfort. But there are also a couple of real downgrades, the S Pen losing Bluetooth features and the aluminum frame replacing titanium. So should you upgrade? Look, if the S Pen downgrade doesn't matter to you, then yes, upgrading from the S24 Ultra to the S26 Ultra actually makes sense. And if you use a case, the aluminum frame probably won't bother you either. But the S Pen is really the deciding factor here. Outside of that, the S26 Ultra makes it a pretty solid upgrade from the S24 Ultra. And like I mentioned earlier, the pre-order period is the best time to upgrade for those trade-ins. So if you're planning to upgrade, you can use my purchase link and get the extra $30 credit as well. The offer is ending soon, so take advantage of it while it lasts. And if you want to see 12 things about the S26 Ultra that almost no one is talking about, click right here and I'll see you there.